Welcome to Threads of Truth, the podcast where real-life mysteries meet internet speculation. Today. Well, first of all, happy Valentine's Day. It is Saturday, February 14th, 2026.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I guess I hadn't noticed. The calendar on my wall is still turned to a case from 1994.
That tracks. I have to assume while everyone else is scrambling for last-minute dinner reservations, you're probably just, knee-deep in red string and cork boards?
Always. You know, there's something remarkably grounding about forensic files. They don't demand flowers.
They just demand answers.
Exactly. Much simpler relationship.
Fair enough. But, there's actually a strange kind of link between today and the story we're exploring. Valentine's Day is all about this public performance of connection, of commitment.
Right. Proving you're a unit.
Exactly. And the story we're examining today is, it's the absolute inverse of that. It's about the ultimate disconnection.
The Irish exit of a lifetime. A complete and total severing.
We spend so much time on this show talking about people who are taken, against their will, abductions, unsolved murders. But we rarely get to talk about the people who just look at their entire life, their spouse, their kids, their job, their house, and just press the eject button.
It's what some people call the right to disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fascinating and frankly terrifying legal and psychological space to operate in.
And the case of Robert Hoagland is probably the modern textbook definition of it.
It really is. It has every element you could imagine.
So let's set the board for everyone. We need to go back in time to 2013.
Specifically to Newtown, Connecticut.
Right. And you really can't talk about Newtown in 2013 without first understanding the atmosphere of the town at that time.
No, the context here is absolutely everything.
We're talking July. It's a classic New England summer, so it's hot, it's humid. But the town itself, it's not a normal town.
Not at all. This is only 7 months after the Sandy Hook Elementary tragedy. The psychological skin of that community was paper thin.
I can't even imagine.
Everyone was hyper vigilant. I mean, truly. If a car was parked on the wrong side of the street for too long, people noticed. They called it in. If a stranger was seen walking through a neighborhood, the police would get a call.
It sounds like a community that was just holding on for dear life, trying to protect what was left.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
They were holding on to each other and holding on to this idea of safety that had been shattered.
Which makes a disappearance, a person just vanishing from the middle of it, even more jarring. You'd think in a town where everyone is watching everything, you couldn't possibly just disappear.
You would think,
Okay.
but that's exactly what happened.
So enter Robert Hoagland. To his friends and family, he's Hoagie. He's 50 years old, and if you saw a picture of him, he looks like, your standard suburban dad. Balding a bit, glasses, a pretty approachable, friendly face.
He was a fixture in that town, a longtime community member. He has 3 sons, Chris, Max, and Sam. He's married to his wife, Lori.
And his career path is interesting. You mentioned it's the key to understanding him later.
I think it really is. He didn't start out in some quiet office job. He started as a professional chef.
Which is an incredibly high-pressure environment.
Extremely. Professional kitchens they're chaotic. They're almost military-style environments. You have to be precise, you have to be fast, and you have to handle immense constant pressure. The heat, literally and figuratively.
So what made him change?
He left all that. He pivoted to become a licensed real estate appraiser, and he started working out of a friend's law office in Bridgeport.
Why the switch?
The classic reason, the one you hear so often. He wanted to spend more time with his family.
Of course.
Being a chef means you're gone. Nights, weekends, all the holidays. Appraising real estate is, for the most part, a 9-to-5 job.
So on paper, it looks like he made this conscious sacrifice. He gave up his passion for the sake of being present for his kids.
There's exactly how it looked on paper. A dedicated family man.
So let's get to the day. Sunday, July 28th, 2013. Walk me through that morning, because the timeline we have is incredibly tight and detailed up to a point.
It's painfully mundane. And I think that's what makes it so haunting. There's no drama, no big fight. He just wakes up early.
Okay.
He takes his son, Max, to a bus station in a neighboring town. Max is heading out for a bit. After dropping him off, Robert starts running a few errands.
And we have a digital footprint here, right? We have receipts and footage.
We do. It starts at 6:45 a.m.
Of early.
Very early. He stops at a place called Bagel Delight on Churchill Road.
Which, if you know Newtown, is just the local spots where everyone goes.
Exactly. You buy some bagels.
Yep.
Then he drives a short distance to the mobile gas station right nearby. And this is where we get our last clear look at him. There's surveillance footage.
And on that footage, describe him. Does he look like a man who's about to flee his life? Stressed, anxious.
Not even a little. He's a picture of calm. He's wearing a plain white t-shirt, khaki shorts, loafers, no socks. Just a regular guy on a summer morning.
How is he moving?
Slowly. Unhurried. He's not, checking his watch constantly. He's not looking over his shoulder. He gets out, he pumps gas into his wife's car. Then he walks inside the convenience store.
What does he buy?
He buys a half tank of fuel, and he buys one other thing.
The map.
The map.
This is the detail that for years has just stuck in my brain. He buys a physical, fold-out paper map of the eastern United States.
In the year 2013.
Right. I mean, think about it. We all had iPhones in 2013. We had Garmin GPS units. We had Google Maps on our phones. Who in 2013 buys a paper map at a gas station.
Someone who does not want to be pinged.
Someone who doesn't want a record.
Precisely. A GPS, whether it's on your phone or in your car, is a conversation. It's your device talking to a satellite. It leaves a trail. Digital breadcrumbs. A paper map. A paper map is silent.
It's completely analog.
It's the primary tool of someone who is consciously planning to go off-grid.
So he buys the map, he gets back in the car, he goes home. What's next?
He has breakfast. His son Max was still there before leaving for the bus. They eat. Then, a little later, around 10 a.m., a neighbor sees Robert outside his house on Washington Avenue.
And what's he doing?
He's mowing the lawn.
That's the last confirmed sighting of Robert Hoagland mowing his lawn.
That is it. The last time anyone who knew him saw him alive.
That act itself is just, it's so psychologically weird for a man who is planning to disappear, isn't it?
It's bizarre. Mowing the lawn is an act of future maintenance. You mow the lawn so it looks good next week so the neighbors don't complain. If you know you are never, ever coming back, why would you bother?
Unless it's part of the cover, a final act of normalcy to throw everyone off.
That's the most likely explanation. If the neighbors see you doing chores on a Sunday morning, everything seems fine. If the grass starts getting long on Tuesday, they might be concerned and come knock on the door sooner.
So it buys him time.
It buys him time and it screams, everything is fine here. It's a way to signal to the world that today is just like any other Sunday, even as you are mentally packing your bags for good.
So the lawn gets mowed. The mower gets put back in the shed. And then, just silence.
The timeline goes completely dark. He just evaporates from his own property.
So now we have to shift perspective. To his wife, Lori, where is she while all of this is unfolding?
She's completely out of the picture physically. She's actually in the air, flying back into the country.
He's on a trip.
A big one.
Yeah.
She'd been on a 17-day trip to Turkey with some girlfriends. Her flight lands at JFK Airport in New York at 4:00 p.m. that same Sunday.
And Robert was supposed to pick her up.
He was the designated pickup driver. That was the plan.
And he's not there.
He's not there. So she's standing at the terminal with all her luggage. She sends him a text message, something like, I'm here.
Nothing.
No response. So she calls him, and the call goes straight to voicemail.
That initial feeling, it has to be a slow burn, right? At first, you're just annoyed.
Oh, yeah. You're thinking he's late. The traffic on the Van Wyck is always terrible. You're just irritated.
Then after an hour, maybe that annoyance turns into worry. Did he get in an accident?
Exactly. Your mind starts to go to darker places. By the 2-hour mark, she knows in her gut that something is seriously wrong. This is not like him.
So what does she do? She can't just stay at JFK.
Eventually, she has to give up. She ends up taking a cab all the way to a relative's house in Brooklyn. She can't get back to her own home in Newtown until much later that evening.
And when the police are finally called and they enter the house at 44 Washington Avenue, what do they find? Are they walking into a crime scene? Is there evidence of a struggle?
It's the complete opposite. It's a still life. It's like a moment frozen in time.
What do you mean?
His car, the one he drove that morning, is parked in the driveway. The house is locked. Inside, they find his keys. They find his cell phone.
And his wallet.
His wallet.
Yeah.
With his driver's license, credit cards, cash, everything.
Okay, that's a huge red flag. You can leave your phone maybe, but your wallet.
And that wasn't even the most critical thing they found. They found his daily blood pressure medication.
Okay, that's it. That's the detail that points away from a voluntary departure. You can survive without a credit card if you have cash stashed somewhere. You can get by without a car, but you do not leave life-sustaining medication behind if you plan on living.
You don't. And his passport was also there on his desk, so he wasn't fleeing the country.
And there was one more detail. On the dining table,
An unwashed breakfast plate. Cereal bowl, I think. Just is sitting there. It looked exactly like he took a bite of breakfast, maybe got up to answer the door, and just fell off the face of the earth.
for 9 years, that plate, that wallet, and especially those meds, they told a very specific story to the police and to his family.
They screamed foul play. They screamed violent interruption.
You don't just walk away from your entire identity, your wallet, your passport, your medicine, unless you were forced to.
That was the operating theory for nearly a decade, that something bad happened to Robert Hoagland.
And there was a very, very specific theory about who might have forced him. This is where we have to get into what the investigators called the shadow lead.
This is where the story gets tragic in a whole different way. Because the police, and by extension the community and the internet, they zeroed in on his son, Max.
Max, the son who he had breakfast with that morning.
Right. But it was more than that. Max, at the time, was in a very bad place. He was in his early 20s, and he was struggling heavily with drug addiction.
Okay.
He was reportedly running with a rough crowd in Bridgeport, which isn't far from Newtown, but is a very different world. And there were reports of a recent conflict, a confrontation,
Over what?
a stolen laptop. It sounds trivial to us, but in the world of addiction and drug debts, small things like that can escalate very, very quickly.
So what was the story?
The story that circulated was that Robert, being a protected dad, had recently gone to Bridgeport himself to confront some of these individuals, dealers, or other users to try to get this laptop back for his son. He was trying to clean up Max's mess.
He was being the fixer.
He was. He was stepping into a dangerous world that he didn't understand to protect his son.
And the timing of all this.
The timing was just terrible for Max. Because the very night after Robert disappears, Max gets arrested.
For what?
Criminal trespassing back in Bridgeport. When the police question him, he tells them he was there looking to buy drugs.
Oh, man. So if you're a detective looking at this case, the narrative practically writes itself.
It's almost too perfect. Dad confronts drug dealers over his son's issues. The very next day, Dad vanishes. That night, the son is back in the same area, acting erratically.
The obvious conclusion is that Dad was killed in retaliation and the son is somehow involved, or at least his world is.
It became the shadow lead. It fit every trope, every bias we have about these situations. Good suburban dad tries to be a hero, gets swallowed by the criminal underworld. It was the primary theory for years.
It was the entire basis for the Disappeared episode that covered his case, right? I remember watching that. A family man.
They leaned into it so hard. The show, the media, everyone. The whole country was looking for a body.
And they really looked.
Oh, they searched everywhere. Dive teams dredged parts of Lake Zoar near Sandy Hook. They were looking for a corpse, maybe weighed down by cinder blocks. Classic mob-style hit.
There were sightings called in from all over the country, weren't there?
All over. Rhode Island, a DOT crew thought they saw him. Turned out to be a false alarm. Someone thought they saw him in California. It's the usual noise you get in a high-profile case.
But there was one tip that, in hindsight, is just chillingly close to the truth.
The one about a man in Brookfield, Connecticut, getting into a car with New York plates.
Right next door to Newtown.
Exactly. And another one about a man resembling him visiting the Putnam County Correctional Facility in New York, which, again, is geographically very close to where he ended up. But at the time, those tips were either overlooked or just led nowhere. They didn't fit the murder narrative.
And through all this, his wife Lori was adamant. She kept saying in interviews, he would never leave us.
She used the phrase completely in tandem. She was honest that they were under stress. Max's addiction was a huge challenge, and there were financial pressures. But she always framed it as a problem they were fighting together as a team. She couldn't conceive of the idea that he would just defect from that team.
This is what the psychologist Pauline Boss calls ambiguous loss. It's considered one of the most stressful things a human mind can endure.
It's a unique form of torture. If your husband dies in a car crash, you grieve. There's a body, there's a funeral, there's a defined after. But when they're just gone, you are stuck in the during, permanently.
Every time the phone rings, your heart must stop.
Every time a car that looks like his slows down out front, you look out the window. For 9 years, that family lived in a state of suspended animation, swinging wildly between hope that he was alive and grief that he was dead.
And Lori eventually had to have him declared legally dead.
She had to, for practical reasons. You can't keep a house running, you can't access insurance or bank accounts on a ghost salary. So she had to stand in front of a judge and swear that she believed her husband was deceased just to be able to survive financially.
And meanwhile, the internet sleuths, and honestly, us included, we were all convinced he was in a shallow grave somewhere in Bridgeport. We were debating which drug game was responsible.
Because we want to believe that good fathers don't leave. It's a fundamental belief we have. We want to believe that if a good man disappears, it's because a bad thing happened to it.
The alternative is just too scary.
The alternative, that he chose to leave, destabilizes our own sense of security and our own relationships. It's a truth most of us don't want to face.
Oh, get ready to be destabilized. Because 9 years after he mowed that lawn, the phone finally rings.
December 2022.
And it's not the call anyone in that family was expecting. It's not the Newtown police saying, "We found remains in Lake Czar."
No. The call comes from the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office in upstate New York. They had responded to a routine call, an unattended death.
Meaning someone found dead in their home, no obvious foul play.
Exactly. A man had died, apparently of natural causes, in his home in a small town called Rock Hill.
Rock Hill. That's in the Catskills, right?
It is a quiet little place. And here is the absolute kicker. Rock Hill, New York is a 90-minute drive from Newtown, Connecticut.
Wait, hold on. 90 minutes. That's it. I mean, my commute to work used to be longer than that.
It's just under 100 miles.
He was hiding out for 9 years, 90 minutes away from his family.
He was. He wasn't in Thailand. He wasn't in Belize living on a beach. He was basically 2 counties over the state line.
Unbelievable. So this man dies. The police show up. The neighbors know him as someone else, I assume.
They knew him as Richard King. To his roommate and neighbors, he was just rich, nice guy, kept to himself.
So how did they connect Richard King to Robert Hoagland?
The facade of Richard King cracked the moment he died.
Yeah.
As the police went through his apartment, standard procedure, they found papers, mail, documents, with the name Robert Hoagland on them.
No way.
They ran his fingerprints, and they got a match. Robert Hoagland wasn't murdered. He wasn't abducted. He was Richard King, and he had been living in that apartment since November of 2013.
November 2013. So just a few months after he bought that bagel and that map.
Right, which means he must have spent those first few months, the most dangerous time for a missing person, when their face is everywhere, somewhere else. Probably moving around, staying off the grid, before finally settling down in Rock Hill.
Let's really dig into the Richard King years. Because this wasn't a guy hiding in a basement, terrified of being found.
No, not at all. He didn't grow a big beard and live in a cave in the woods. He built a new, quiet life.
And this is the paradox of what's sometimes called an identity escape, isn't it?
Yeah.
To hide effectively, you often have to integrate yourself into a new community.
You do. You have to create a plausible new identity. And he did. He answered a Craigslist ad for a roommate. Can you even imagine that? You're a person with a spare room, you put up an ad, and a fugitive father on the run from his entire life moves in with you.
What was his cover story? What did he tell this roommate?
It was simple and believable. He said he was from out of the area and that he was recently separated from his wife, which, well, it's technically true, I suppose.
He just omitted the part where he didn't actually inform his wife they were separated.
A minor detail in his version of the story.
And he got a job. He was working.
He went right back to what he knew. He got a job as a real estate appraiser for a local company in Sullivan County.
That is incredibly bold. I mean, to use his actual professional skill set, wouldn't that require a license, a social security number, a background check?
It's astonishingly risky, absolutely. But it's also his best camouflage. If you walk in and act like a professional appraiser and you know the jargon, people are more likely to assume you are one. He likely worked under the table or used a falsified ID for the employment paperwork. We don't have the final details on how he navigated that, but he was successfully employed.
But this is the part of the story that just twists the knife for the family he left behind. He wasn't just working and paying rent. He was volunteering in his new community.
He was. At the Sullivan County Federation for the Homeless. He became a regular volunteer there.
And what did he do for them?
He cooked. He went back to the kitchen. He cooked Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners for the homeless.
You're kidding me.
I'm not. There are photos of him that surfaced after he was identified. Robert Hoagland, the man whose family was plastering his face on missing person posters. And he's there, ladling soup into a bowl for someone, smiling. The director of the shelter called him a helper. A nice guy.
The cognitive dissonance there is just deafening. You have to picture it. 90 miles south, his wife and 3 sons are lighting candles for him on his birthday, crying, thinking he was murdered protecting his family.
Well, he is 90 miles north, playing the saint for a community of strangers.
It's like a performative redemption arc that only he was aware of.
That's a great way to put it. It's almost as if he was trying to balance the cosmic scales in his own mind. Yes, I destroyed my own family, but look, now I'm feeding the homeless. It's a way for him to look in the mirror and see Richard King, the good neighbor, instead of Robert Hoagland, the man who abandoned his children.
Do you think he knew they were looking for him? That his case was so high profile?
He absolutely had to have known. You can't just erase the world. The disappeared episode about his case aired on national television while he was living as Richard King in Rock Hill. His face was everywhere. He would have had to live in a complete media blackout not to see it, and that's just not plausible.
Which brings us back to the mechanics of the escape. You mentioned his computer earlier. This is the piece of evidence that proves this wasn't some snap decision, not a mental break on a Sunday morning.
Correct. When the Newtown police analyzed his home PC way back in 2013, they found something that didn't make a lot of sense at the time, but makes perfect sense in hindsight.
What was it?
About a month before he vanished, someone had downloaded and installed a specific type of software onto the computer. A program designed to completely scrub, to erase, internet search history beyond recovery.
A digital file shredder.
Exactly. You don't install that kind of software to hide the fact that you're buying a birthday present for your wife. You install that because you are researching things you absolutely do not want anyone else to find.
Things like how to disappear without a trace.
How to create a fake identity. Best places to hide in upstate New York. How to live off the grid. We can only speculate, but that's the kind of thing you erase with that software.
So for at least a month, for 30 days before he mowed that lawn, he was sitting at the dinner table with Lori. He was watching TV with his sons, Chris and Sam. And in the back of his mind, he was planning this. He was counting down the days.
That is the most chilling part of this for me, the duality. The cold, calculated deception. He was physically present in his family's life, but emotionally and mentally, he had already checked out. He was likely looking at their faces and thinking, this is the last time I'll see you. And he acted perfectly normal. That requires a level of compartmentalization, of dissociation, that is genuinely hard to comprehend.
Which brings us to the question that just screams at us from this entire case. Why? Why would a man do this?
We can't know for sure because he took the answer with him. But we can look at the pressures he was under. We have to look at the sandwich generation pressure cooker. He's 50 years old. He's trying to maintain a career, a marriage, and he's caring for a son in deep, deep trouble.
The role of the fixer again.
Think about the immense stress of that. You are a middle-aged real estate appraiser, and you are, by all accounts, literally driving into Bridgeport to step into the criminal underworld to retrieve a stolen laptop for your addicted son. That is terrifying. Maybe he just reached a breaking point.
A point where the fight or flight instinct just kicked in and he chose flight.
Exactly. Maybe he felt like he was drowning in obligations, in fear for his son, in financial stress, and he looked at his life and saw only a dead end. And then he looked at that map of the eastern United States and saw an escape hatch. He saw freedom.
But the part that's hard to reconcile is leaving his other sons, Chris and Sam. By all accounts, they weren't in trouble. They were just his kids.
And that's where the simple, he was under too much stress theory starts to break down for me. We can understand divorce. We can understand a father moving out and getting his own apartment. But to completely ghost your innocent children, to let them believe you're dead for 9 years, that speaks to something deeper. Either a complete psychological break, a true fugue state, which seems unlikely given the premeditation, or a level of narcissism so profound that he was able to rationalize that his own peace and quiet was more important than their lifelong sanity and well-being.
Or could it have been shame?
Shame is an incredibly powerful motivator. It's possible. If he felt he had failed as a father because of Max's issues, because he couldn't fix it, Maybe he couldn't bear to face his family anymore. In his own warped logic, maybe he convinced himself they're all better off without me.
The I am a burden narrative.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If he frames it that way in his own mind, then removing himself from the equation becomes a noble act, a sacrifice, even though from the outside, we see it as an act of profound selfishness and devastation.
Let's go back to the map again. Why upstate New York? Of all the places on that map, why there? Why not Florida or California, somewhere warm and anonymous?
I think it speaks to the limited resources he was working with. He didn't take thousands of dollars from a bank account. He didn't have an offshore fund. He had the cash in his wallet, which he left behind. So he must have had a separate stash.
Probably not a huge one.
Probably not. So he had to go somewhere he could drive to on that half tank of gas he bought. Somewhere affordable where the cost of living was low. And somewhere he could disappear into a more rural landscape. The Catskills are perfect for that. Lots of transient workers, seasonal jobs, and a culture where people tend to mind their own business.
And the name he chose, Richard King, is there any known significance to that?
As far as we know, no. It's perfectly, beautifully generic, forgettable. You could speculate on the psychology of it. Choosing the name King could imply a desire for control, to be the king of his own destiny. But honestly, he probably just saw it on a billboard or picked it out of a phone book because it sounded common.
When the news of his discovery broke in 2022, the reaction online, the public sentiment, it shifted on a dime.
Oh, it was instantaneous. The sympathy for Hoagie the victim just evaporated overnight. It was replaced with white-hot anger.
I remember reading the comments on the news articles. Coward. Monster. How could he do that to his children?
It's because he broke the social contract.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all have days, if we're being honest, where we want to walk away. We all have those moments where the kids are screaming and the bills are piling up and you fantasize just for a second, what if I just kept driving and never came back?
But we don't.
We don't. We stay. We do the hard work. We honor our commitments. When someone like Robert Hoagland actually does it, when he shows us that you can just opt out, it's deeply unsettling. It terrifies us because it validates a dark impulse we're all supposed to suppress.
It makes you look at your own spouse, your own parents a little differently.
It absolutely does.
Mhm.
You look at your partner across the dinner table and a little party brain thinks, do I really know you? Or are you secretly researching digital shredder software right now?
It exposes the fragility of trust. But there's a really crucial legal angle here that we have to talk about. The Newtown police detective, after the discovery, said something very blunt and very true. He said, he didn't commit a crime. It's not illegal in this country to disappear if you're an adult.
And that's the hard truth that a lot of people don't want to accept. You are an adult. You are not the property of your family. If you want to walk out your front door, change your name, and never speak to anyone from your old life again, the law, for the most part, protects your right to do that.
You don't owe anyone your presence.
Legally, no. Morally, ethically, that's a completely different court, the court of public opinion. He was definitely found guilty there. But the police can't arrest you and drag you back home just because your wife misses you.
I want to talk about Max the son, this revelation. It must be an incredibly complicated thing for him to process.
I think in a strange, painful way, it might be a gift for him. A terrible gift, but a gift nonetheless.
Also,
For 9 years, Max likely lived with the crushing, soul-destroying guilt that his addiction got his father killed, that his choices, his bad crowd, led to his dad's murder.
that's a heavy, heavy burden for anyone to carry, let alone someone also fighting addiction.
And in one phone call, that specific burden is lifted. Now he knows, I didn't kill him. My actions didn't get him killed. He just left. It hurts in a new and different way, but it completely absolves him of that blood guilt. It reframes the entire narrative of his life from, I am a danger who got my father killed, to, my father made a profoundly selfish choice that hurt us all. That's a story you can potentially heal from.
But Lori, his wife, she never got that final confrontation. She never got to ask him why.
No. He died with all his secrets. She got his body back, which is a form of closure. She knows where he is now. But she never got the why. The closure is purely physical, not emotional.
Is it better to know the truth? If you were Lori, would you rather still be living with the hero myth?
That's the impossible question, isn't it? The lie is softer in some ways. He died fighting for his family. That's a noble tragedy you can build a story around.
A story that makes sense.
Right. The truth. He was eating a turkey dinner in a homeless shelter in Rock Hill while I was crying myself to sleep every night. That's a jagged, bitter pill to swallow. But I think, ultimately, reality is always better to build on than a fantasy. You can't truly heal from a lie.
At least now the wondering stops. The constant what-ifs are finally put to bed.
The ambiguity is gone. And the grief, for the first time in 9 years, can finally be specific. They can grieve the man who left them, not the man they imagined was taken.
You know, when you look back at that surveillance footage from the mobile station now, the white t-shirt, the khaki shorts, him buying that map, it looks completely
It
different.
really does. Before, it looked like a man running a mundane Sunday chore. Now, it looks like a launch sequence.
It's his own personal declaration of independence.
It is. Every action he takes that morning is an act of untethering himself from his life.
It's both terrifying and weirdly fascinating. It forces you to ask, how much of our identity is real? And how much is just the set of habits we keep repeating every day? The roles we play.
We are who we are because we show up every day and perform that identity for our jobs, for our families. If we simply stop showing up, we can become Richard King.
And Robert Hoagland proved that you can be Richard King for a very long time.
Right up until the moment your heart gives out. And then, in the end, the paper trail always wins. The truth always comes out.
We're going to wrap it up there. I know it's a heavy one for Valentine's Day, but maybe the takeaway is to go hug your loved ones a little tighter today.
And maybe check the glove compartment of their car for any recently purchased fold-out maps.
Loves, I'll stop it. You're going to make me paranoid.
Just doing my job, keeping you on your toes.
Join us next time. We are heading north again, this time to the Green Mountains of Vermont. We'll be looking into the case of a college student who vanished into thin air during a winter hike on the Long Trail way back in 1946.
Paula Jean Weldon, a classic.
It's a disappearance so baffling, so completely without evidence, that it single-handedly forced the creation of the Vermont State Police. It is a true old-school mystery, and the theories are wild.
Can't wait to get into that one.
Until then, keep pulling at those threads. You never know what will unravel.
Stay curious.
Bye, everyone.